For most of my life, I've relied upon the soil to nurture me as much as I nurture the soil and grow plants. And that's partly based upon an experience I had when I was a teenager of experience, almost a kind of bliss when I was working with the soil one day, and then a dream in which I felt my hands grow into roots and grow down into the ground, and that's remained with me. It's a very simple thing that not only do we need to look after the soil because it feeds us and because there's a kind of moral duty, but it's a very practical thing that it will look after us. The great danger of any movement, particularly an environmental or ecological movement, is a feeling that you're in the right. And by definition, anyone who disagrees with you is in the wrong. And that you are one of the chosen people. And that's a very, very rocky road to go down. If we believe in what we're saying, that that organic growing, that in sharing food, in looking after the earth, of not polluting, of caring for everybody, that means caring for our enemies too. And actually stop seeing them as enemies, just seeing them as other people who happen to disagree with us. We need to be inclusive, we need to be humble, and accept also, by definition, that we might be wrong too. Nearly 10 years ago, I was brought to my attention that the part of rural England, and it's very rural and very remote in many ways, that I live in, had a major heroin problem. Drug use and drug abuse was widespread. So I started a very modest project where I set up a small holding, just a few acres, with a group who were particularly troubled. They were in and out of prison the whole time, all long-term addicts. Growing vegetables, fruit. We kept a few pigs, kept some sheep. The idea being that we would work the soil and become acquainted with it so it became ours. It wasn't just something else out there. It was personal. And that if they didn't look after it, then things wouldn't survive. I wanted them to identify with place. I think there is a profound sense of meaning in place. And so their neighbours, who were shunning these people, literally, would see they were just other people sharing the same space, in trouble, that needed help rather than condemnation. And because we started to grow things that had produce, then that could be eaten, and then that could be shared with other people. And the idea was then we could share that with neighbours. And they started to share what they had, that we couldn't have. So gradually we became members of a community, albeit odd, unusual members. And it was a very healing process. And I benefited hugely from it. Corporations and government are not the solution. That's really clear. I mean, it's clear that big capitalism is in trouble. I suspect it will go on being in trouble for a long time. It's not going to disappear, but it's not going to thrive. For the very simple premise that it's based upon growth, but the growth was never there. It was either imaginary, like the housing bubble, or it wasn't real. It was just taking something away from someone else and saying, we're growing. You're not. You're stealing. And that real growth means everybody. If you look at a plant, all the plant grows, rather than just one little bit of it. So I think that's in trouble and needs help rather than dismissing. I think politicians need help. And that the easiest way is to go back to the personal. Encourage individuals, children, to sow a seed, look after it, nurture it, share it. They do that, it's probably the most powerful political action they can do.